Okay. Good boy, Dante. What's up, y'all? Yikes. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of InTheImageClothingCompany. Today is the 15th of March, 2026. It's actually the 16th. No, it's Monday. It's the 16th of March, 2026. Wow, the past couple days would have been the 15th and the 14th. This is in the Image Clothing Company's main side, one of our fourths where we allow the body to work. Okay, there are four sides to In the Image Clothing Company, but we're only a clothing company because clothing is the only thing physically placed on us. Allowing the body to work. Our slogan here, well, yeah, clothing has to stay centered, fit correct, where we discuss and there's no opinion because we've got joints of body parts meshing with joints of material of clothing. And, vice versa. Seams of body parts meshing with seams of material of clothing. Anyway, there's only one way the human body could ever work. There's no opinion to it. Our clothing needs to be made from 100% natural materials in all the ways we can. Okay. The goal is natural. On all four sides of In the Image Clothing Company. Wow. This video's title: The Serratus Anterior. Oh my gosh. All right. Clothing's effect on the Serratus Anterior. That's this video's title. Under In the Image Clothing Company's main side, the 16th of March, 2026. Check this out. Clothing's the only thing physically placed on us, okay? Our bodies truly do only have one way they could ever work. They're just connected to each other the ways that they are. Bones connect to bones through ligaments, and it's all just a closed system. The skeletal system of the body. And then we've got muscles that are pieced onto the skeletal system to allow the skeletal system to be supported and to have motion. The body's about its bones. Okay, the muscles can't do anything unless they attach to bones. Bones connect directly to each other, but then the muscles connect to the bones. It's about the bones. The body's about its neutral position, okay? It's about a neutral position in everything. The wrist has a neutral. It comes up or it goes down. The elbow's neutral is sitting at the natural waist, okay? Natural, neutral, and normal are synonyms within the human body's functioning, but the elbow is the shoulder because they're connected through the immovable by itself bone of the upper arm bone called the humerus. Anywhere the elbow goes, the shoulder goes, exactly the same location. Pivoting up and in on the collarbone or down and out on the collarbone, up an internal rotation or down an external rotation. There's only one way these things happen in the body. There's two bones in the forearm, the radius and ulna, and they rotate over each other like this. Okay? There's only one way the human body could ever work. The thing is, it sounds crazy to a lot of people, but there's no new information here, and there's no sales pitch with this at all. I mean, we're designed in the image of God, in the image of Jesus Christ. We're a clothing company because anything that clothes the human being is clothing. Even glasses or jewelry, anything at all. Not just tops and pants and socks and shoes and undergarments, gloves and hats, whatever else you want to talk about. The way that God clothes the fields with grass, anything placed onto something else is clothing. Okay, it with something. So, yeah, clothing, it's the only fix to human beings' physical problems. At least the physical problems we discuss here under In the Image Clothing Company. How could it not be? It's the only thing physically placed on us. But this is the thing. If our clothing is oversized, if it's imbalanced in any way, and there's a lot of imbalances in modern day, 2026, in clothing design. And then clothing design gets shipped across the entire planet Earth. And so we get into universal patternings if we're wearing the same designs that have imbalances in them. We've got ropes introduced to the body, like shoelaces or drawstrings, anything tied on or around the body with a knot, one side over the other. We twist the entire body. Okay, so we get into chronic patterning. Scar tissue and bone spurs build up in our bodies, and we have to rid this patterning to allow our bodies to work, because there's truly only one way the human body could ever work. There's no possible opinion to it. Bones are only the shape that they are and only the length that they are, and so are muscles. They're just the shape and length that they are, and the body just functions or it doesn't. The body was designed by God to work, but we get into these chronic patternings and our bodies don't really work very well in a lot of cases. We couldn't possibly train something like posture. It's no new information and it's truth, okay? Another name for God is the truth, the same yesterday, today, and forever. Anything that ever is true always is true. Truth doesn't change, or else it was never true. That's what the word means. It's something that's just what it is and always. Jesus Christ is his name. These videos take a lot out of me because this is huge. Watch this. Would you watch this? You're probably watching this if you're hearing me ask you to watch this already in the video. We do so much under the gift, as I call it, of video, under In the Image Clothing Company and all four sides. Okay, check this out. It's just another date marked documentation. Clothing's effect on the serratus anterior. We'll get into it. It's impossible to train posture. It's impossible to train the human being to get it to do anything at all besides what it does. No opinion. Okay, we've got opposing bends from the bottom to the top in the human being to stay vertical on Earth's vertical gravity pull. There's a horizontal surface to the planet Earth and then a vertical pull to its gravity. This is a 90-degree angle, a perpendicular angle, a right angle, okay? The body has opposing bends. The feet are on the Earth's surface. That's their neutral. The feet come up, dorsiflexion, or the feet go down, plantar flexion, hinging on the ankle and using the lever of the foot to do this, okay? The neutral is the surface of the planet Earth. It's just horizontal, okay? It's the term zero drop in any brand of shoe, okay? How many times can I say okay in this video? Yeah, our feet just have to start flat on the ground. We've got feet arches that grip inward, opposing the center line of the human being, and that's how we stay vertical from our foundation. If you've got feet. If you've got no feet, then there you go. That's you know, your own situation, and that happens. Amputations, deformities, birth defects, or major surgeries, whatever it is, you know, that makes you a little bit different in any kind of way, cool. We're all different where we are, but there is a universal human design. We really do have to get as close as we can to that because of things like breathing, expanding and contracting the whole rib cage, caging the ribs. Well, no, caging the lungs with our ribs, you know, and we'll talk about that in this video because the serratus anterior is a muscle, you know, musculature that connects to the rib cage. And the shoulder blade called the scapula, this big bone on our upper back, you know, and there's one on each side of the upper back as well. So we'll get into this, but that's the point, is there's two sides to the body, and Earth's gravity, you know, when we stabilize through the entire body to breathe, we need to really actually be as close as we can to the universal human design to have our bodies work the best, because that's how we can say there's a universal human design. The baseline human being, there's a way that it's structured. That's how we can call it a human being. Okay. Blunt, bold, raw, and real. In the Image Clothing Company. Here comes the airplane noise, and there it goes when it leaves. It just is what it is. You can hear what I'm saying. That's why I'm filming these videos, you know? It's a permanent documentation of information that I don't get to decide or change. Here's the thing. Truth is truth. The truth is, you can't train posture. You can't. It's impossible. The body has even opposing bends just to stand up, like I'm saying. The ankles bend backward, the knees bend forward, the hips bend backward, the low back bends forward, the mid back bends backward, and then the upper back, which is just our neck, the cervical spine, bends forward. It's just back and forth, back, and then we go forth again, and there you go. You're standing up as a human being on Earth. There's no opinion to it. There's no sales pitch with this. We'll sell good clothing. I mean, we will. Just because we wear clothing. You know, the fix really would be to never wear clothing. That'd be the fix to not altering the body. But if we alter our bodies, yeah, we get out of chronic patterning here under In the Image Clothing Company. That's really what we do under our main side, is discussing how to allow the body to work, and clothing just has to not alter our bodies. So that's why we'll have good clothing under In the Image Clothing Company. Do everything clothing, brandless on the exterior, you know, minimal, simple, staying centered, fitting correct, and being made in all the ways we can from 100% natural materials, okay? But, you know, dog products as well. In the Image Clothing Company Poodles, another one of our fourths, where we do the same thing we do here with allowing the body to work for the human beings, but we title it Letting Dogs Stay Natural for the Dogs. We specialize in purebred standard poodles. If you get to see him, Dante, my current standard poodle, is here in this video. He's by my feet. And we give information that applies to all dogs across the earth. with the same thing we discuss here for human beings on In the Image Clothing Company's main side: standing, sitting, sleeping, walking, breathing, eating, hydration. But the thing is, dogs have things clothing them. Okay, collars, leashes, harnesses, bandanas, slip leads, anything you place on or around the dog in any way. It's just gotta not alter the dog. Okay, keeping collars centered and the importance of snug collars. 2 videos that we have here under In the Image Clothing Company's main side. It applies to both human beings and the dogs. We've just got this even opposing musculature from the center line of our bodies, and it's going through the collar of our top. Okay, we have a center line as human beings: the sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, and our jaw. The jaw naturally stabilizes the entire body. Okay, it just does. The jaw is the shoulder, is a video's title here under In the Image Clothing Company's main side. The jaw is connected directly to the shoulder, as you can see here. And the jaw's got musculature going up into the crown of the head, into the cheekbones, down into the lower, into the neck, into some of those upper ribs. Anyway, let's talk about the serratus anterior and clothing's effect on it, because that's this video's title. Clothing's effect on the serratus anterior. Well, what is that? It's a muscle, okay? The serratus anterior. We've got ribs, like I was saying. The rib cage starts in the front of the body at the center line, the sternum, this bone here. These rib bones wrap around the lungs, and they connect into the center line of the body in the rear at our spine. The spine is just a lot of little bones, okay? Vertebrae. They stack up like this to have all that motion happen in the spine. Okay. The serratus anterior, it connects to these ribs on the front side of the body. Not all the way to the center line in the front, but just, kind of halfway, if you will, from like the side of the body to the very center in the front of the body. Somewhere between here, okay, the muscle of the serratus anterior connects to our rib bones, okay, on the front side of where it connects. But then it comes wrapping around our sides on each side of the body. There's one of these, right? A serratus anterior muscle on each side of the body connecting to the ribs, wrapping around, and then in the rear of our bodies, it connects to the shoulder blades, okay, the scapula. Yeah, the natural scapula position. A video here under In the Image Clothing Company's main side. Let me reference this. Keeping elbows at the natural waist. It's a video here under In the Image Clothing Company's main side. The elbow at the natural waist is the shoulder at its neutral height, okay? They can't go anywhere the other one doesn't go. They're literally connected through a bone, the upper arm bone called the humerus. At its upper end, it's the shoulder, and at its lower end, it's the elbow. At the shoulder, it meets the collarbone called the clavicle, and then the scapula called the shoulder blade that we're talking about. And at the upper arm bone's bottom end, it meets the radius and the ulna in the forearm. So, yeah, there's only one way the human body could ever work. I know people have, been claiming to train the human being for probably longer than I've currently been alive. I'm 26 years old as of today's date, the 16th of March, 2026. It's not my birthday today. I just mean, when I'm in my 26th year of life, it's impossible. Don't believe me. Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, any of our team members, even any of our poodles, with any of our information, truth is truth, but it's always been impossible to get the human being to do anything that it doesn't just do already. There's a video here under In the Image Clothing Company's main side titled "You Didn't Train to It." You can't train your body to do anything. You can work out all you want and gain muscle mass, musculature's size, but it just goes away back to the human body's only normal once you stop trying to get it to be excessively large. There's only a normal to the body: a normal resting heart rate, a normal resting breathing rate, a normal body temperature, a normal amount of fat content, and a normal amount of muscle mass, and everything in the body, there's a normal to it. That's the thing. Natural, neutral, and normal, these synonyms that are just how the body works. The body resides in its neutral positions, working activated as a whole. Everything in the body is there with its own individual role to play, And so no compensation can be had. Nothing in the body can try to make up for something else not doing its role for fully or properly, because everything has a different function. There's only one way the body works. It's just the shape of the bones. I mean, it's just what it is. It's always been the exact same. It always will be the exact same. Come back in 60 years, 100 years, whatever, try to disprove what we do under In the Image Clothing Company, and you will not. Truth is truth. Yikes, though, huh? That's crazy to say, but it's truth. Yes, it's truth. There's only one way the body could ever work. All you can do is allow God's design of the human being to work, or let God's design of the dog stay natural. That's why these are our slogans: allowing the body to work on In the Image Clothing Company's main side, and letting dogs stay natural on In the Image Clothing Company poodles. There's only one way it happens. We didn't design the body. We're not going to train it to do something. That's impossible. It's truly physically, mathematically, mechanically impossible. We've got a video here under In the Image Clothing Company titled, "The Human Body is Just Mechanics." Dante was in that video with me. Dante's been in pretty much every single video in the past 3+ months with me. Okay, he's my personal poodle. And I'm the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. My name is Evan Strong. The human body is just mechanics. We've just got levers, hinges, and rotations. It's just what it is. Yikes. Yeah, there's no opinion to it that could possibly matter. The Serratus anterior. Yeah. What it does when it connects to the ribs here in the front, and it wraps around the sides of the body, where it connects into those shoulder blades or those scapulas, those big bones on our upper back, and there should be a lot of motion in those bones naturally, by the way. Where it connects to those bones is on the underside of the shoulder blades. So the shoulder blade, it's got a backside to it, but then it's got an inside to it. And the thing is, the inside of the shoulder blade, if you will, it's between the shoulder blade's bone and the rib cage in the back. That's actually where this muscle connects to, the serratus anterior. It connects right between the bones of the outside of the ribs in the rear of the body, and then the inside of those big bones on our upper backs called the scapula, or the shoulder blades, okay? So it kind of just sneaks between those bones, if you will, this serratus anterior muscle. And what it does is it pulls the shoulder blades back. But it does it, like I'm saying, from we could word it as inside of the shoulder blade. Okay, we've got muscles on our back, trapezius, okay? The upper trapezius, the middle trapezius, and the lower trapezius. And these muscles connect from these shoulder blades, or these scapulas. It's just two names for the same bone there. It connects from those bones to the spine in the center line of our bodies in the rear. And so these trapezius muscles, they just do this. And they pull the shoulder blades to the spine. Okay? Pull the shoulder blades to the spine and up, or just straight back to the spine, or to the spine and down. There's an upper, a middle, and a lower trapezius. Well, guess what? There's a neutral to the height of the shoulders. Up, middle, or down. Okay, middle, down, or up. There's just a neutral to everything in the body. That's cool. I've never said that before on camera. Oh, I've never even understood it quite exactly like that. I mean, I've thought about it. I have, but I've never really said it like that, even for myself. That's how it works. There's a neutral to the shoulder. There's no opinion to it. The bottom end of the upper arm bone is the elbow. The top end of the upper arm bone is the shoulder. There's just a neutral to the shoulder. There's a neutral to everything in the body. Natural, neutral, and normal. Okay, synonyms. The body would normally just be in its natural position, and that's in its neutrals. You can only move to one side if you can go to the other side as well, because there has to be a center between the two. And the human body only pulls, okay? The human body only pulls, a video here we reference often under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company. All muscles do is pull. It's just an electrical system sent from the brain. Muscle fibers fire and get closer together. They contract. They just pull. That's it, you know. Stretch in clothing goes the opposite direction of the only way the muscles could ever work. But so does just stretching your body. There's just a neutral. You pull on one side, opposing the pull on the other side, and then you stabilize in the center. That's just how the body works in every aspect of anything it does, okay? There's no opinion to it. There's only one way the human body could ever work. So what I'm saying, though, is, what's this video's title? Clothing's effect on the Serratus anterior, okay? In the Image Clothing Company's main side, the 16th of March, 2026. This is a big point, though, with the shoulders and their neutral height, is there's a mid-trapezius connecting the shoulder blades to the spine. There's an upper trapezius connecting the shoulder blades to the spine. And then there's a lower trapezius connecting the shoulder blades to the spine. The shoulder blades, or scapulas, two names for the same bone, those big bones on our upper back, to allow for motion of the shoulders, one of the three bones of the shoulder, okay? Now, that's the point, is there's a neutral. There's no opinion to it. The body just has to reside in its neutrals. What I mean by there's no opinion to it is you can't train it. Neutral is the resting state. There's just a neutral. There's only one way the body could ever work. We just have to allow it to. That's some good context. But these serratus anterior muscles, one of them on each side of our bodies, they're kind of doing basically the same thing as the trapezius, in the sense of what they do for the shoulder blade. Man, this is weird, because not really. It's quite the interesting thing to try to explain, because the weird thing about the serratus anterior muscle is, like I'm saying, they're connected on the front of the shoulder blades, or the scapulas, but that's behind the rib cage. They're kind of tucked in this little pocket. And so as this muscle pulls, it does a very similar thing in a lot of ways to what these trapezius muscles do, but almost not. It is weird. There's just a lot going on in the body. It's a mechanical machine placed onto this rock in space that is our Earth. It only does what it does. And in order for it to do all of this, every muscle only pulling directly in line where it's connected, there is a lot going on in the body. Because just the area where this muscle is connecting, the way it pulls, it kind of seems like it would pull the shoulder forward around the body. But because it's connecting inside, if you will, underneath, if you will, the scapula or shoulder blade, between it and the rib cage in the rear, it actually kind of pulls the shoulder blade back. Strange, but it does. And so, really the position the serratus anterior would pull our shoulders into is like this. Okay, now when we stand, our thumbs are naturally, normally just pointing straight forward, okay? And this muscle, it takes the inside of that shoulder blade, or scapula, okay, between it and the rib cage, and it pulls it to the front of the ribs here. Now watch what it'll do to my whole arm as this muscle pulls. So even though the muscle's actually pulling from the bone on our back, the scapula or shoulder blade, forward to the front of the rib cage, it tucks the shoulder blade back against the rib cage because it's connecting on the inside or the underside of the scapula or shoulder blade, between it and the rib cage. So it's like this. So it does pull the shoulder back, kind of, which is strange because it connects in the front and muscles only pull. But that's what it does. That's really what it does. And so this is a big muscle. And I'll tell you why. There's no sales pitch here. This is the truth. We're a clothing company, okay, because, yeah, the body was designed by God to work. And this muscle would just work with the rest of the muscles that connect to the shoulder to just keep the shoulder in its neutral position if there was nothing physically in its way. Now, here's the thing. The arms resting down at our sides is the neutral. It's Earth's gravity's pull. Watch this. If our arms are just down at our sides, this is where we have our full range of motion. Okay, in the neutral position. Gravity, okay? It's just neutral, the body. There's only one way it works, activated as a whole. As if it just was never altered. Like the dogs, like the cats and the cheetah, the zebra, giraffe. Welcome to Africa. Well, that's not where I'm actually standing, but that's where those animals live. Naturally. So we have this serratus anterior muscle just playing into everything else that's connecting to the shoulder, the pectoral muscles, pectoralis, if you will, okay? The trapezius, the rhomboids, the, yikes, I mean, the latissimus dorsi, the deltoid, the triceps, the biceps, everything connecting into the shoulder, and there's more muscles, but that's what I'm saying, is just everything playing into the shoulder, it's all balanced, working with each other. All the muscles do that, okay? They work with each other just to leave everything in its neutral position unless it needs to be used. And then they move it, and then it goes back to its neutral position unless it needs to be used. Whatever it is in the body at all, it's just all there. Everywhere any part of the body goes, it all comes. And so something like the shoulder, there's a lot of muscles going into its functioning. The serratus anterior is just one of them, but it's a relatively big muscle, really. It spans the whole side of the rib cage here, you know? I mean, that's a pretty big area. And it connects to a lot of different ribs. I don't know exactly how many as of right now, but like quite a few different ribs as it comes from the scapula, between the shoulder blade and the rib cage in the rear. It comes around, it splits off, and it connects to a lot of different ribs here in the front. And it does its function to just play into stabilizing the shoulder blade. You know, we've got these rotator cuff muscles, little muscles in the shoulder blade, okay, connecting to the shoulder blade that really stabilize the shoulder. The serratus anterior is just one of the muscles that's playing a role. But the thing is, and this is not a stretch, it's not a sales pitch, this is really what's going on. We've got clothing. Not only do we have clothing, we've got robots. We've got robots that stitch our clothing in modern day, okay? And one thing we have is rotated seams. And the thing is, our bodies have their own rotations, internal and external rotation from the neutral. Our bodies having their own rotations can't be clothed by something that is rotating the body. The body has to reside in its neutrals, and then it can rotate from there. So, Mr. Automobile, mobile, motion, machine, mechanical. It's a big truck. The body can't be rotated by something and still work. You know, I mean, talk about chronic patterning. Okay, we do. I founded a clothing company for the sake of the human body. My name is Evan Strong. Yeah, we talk about rotated seams. In the Image Clothing Company's rotated seam modification, we give a lot of free modifications in clothing because our clothing just can't alter our bodies, or it alters our bodies. I mean, that's just it. The only thing physically placed on us, gravity having the same effect on our clothing that it has on our bodies. Like I'm saying, joints of material meshing with joints of clothing. Our bodies just being a mechanical machine, there can't be anything in their way. So, yeah. Things like in the Image Clothing Company's dreaded collar seam modification, you know. Just keeping collars centered, like I was saying earlier. And things like this, we give a lot of free modifications in clothing because rotated seams are so common in 2026. And going forth, if they continue to be, then there you go. Maybe it's only going to get even worse. You know, things are in most every sense. Isn't that some encouraging news? No, but the good news is we've got discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ under In the Image Clothing Company podcast, another one of our fourths. Yeah, you don't have to be religious or believe in anything, but we're all human beings. We're the same thing placed on the same earth. We're designed by the same God. It just is what it is. Truth is truth. Before you ever got to believe anything different, you know. You had to first get here to maybe be able to develop a belief on how you got here. Well, it already happened, you know. And you can't even have an opinion on anything unless there's something there first. And then you can have an opinion on it, but it's already what it is, and so your opinion can't change it. Truth is truth. Always. Okay? We're on episode 204 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast as of today's date, the 16th of March, 2026. Anyway, what am I talking about? The Serratus Anterior. The airplane noise that flies overhead. Neutrals. Okay, there's only one way the body could ever work. And I honestly forgot where I was in the discussion of the Serratus Anterior because it took me off guard in a good way when I started discussing the gospel of Jesus Christ. Rotated seams. Yeah, so rotated seams are something I'll discuss when the airplane is just not quite as loud in the microphone of this device, you know. It's just receiving the sound waves, and you didn't come here to listen to that, probably, you know. Anyway. Rotated seams are on the sides of our clothing, like this. You know, clothing comes down, our bodies, there you go. Earth's gravity, it's just a vertical pull. And so our seams just need to be right at the sides of our bodies. And if we've got seams that come down and then they rotate at the bottom, and they're stitched and pinned in one direction instead of the other direction, or if it's the other direction instead of the first one, the point is Earth's gravity, that's really the point, is gravity. We've got a lot of videos here under In the Image Clothing Company's main site discussing gravity. Well, we just discuss gravity a lot because its pull is always the same. Meshing with our body's center line, there's a center to Earth's gravity's pull. So yeah, your center of gravity, staying in your center line, keeping our bodies over Earth's gravity. These are videos under In the Image Clothing Company's main site here specifically about gravity. There's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled Defying Gravity. It's something we're not going to do as a human being, okay? Rotated seams. And the core is another video under In the Image Clothing Company's main site here. In the Image Clothing Company's rotated seam modification is even an episode title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. So is In the Image Clothing Company's dreaded collar seam modification, just because they're that huge. So is In the Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique. Wow. Just the only way the top of the feet are shaped. We'll discuss it in this if and where we do. But yeah, I mean, we've just got gravity pulling straight down on us. Our side seams of our clothing have to be at the sides of our bodies. It's where the arms hang. Okay? It's where the sides of the crest of the hip bones or the pelvis are. Okay? It's where the serratus anterior muscle travels. The serratus anterior. It's going right between the arm and the side. Okay? Like I'm showing here. It starts in the front at the ribs. It's connecting to individual ribs. Quite a few of them here. And then it's going up and around the side of the body underneath where the arm lays. And then it goes back there between the scapula or shoulder blade and the rib cage. But the thing with this is that's where our side seams of our clothing are. Is right under our arms, between our arms and our rib cage. The exact location that the serratus anterior muscle is. And we've got rotated seams in modern clothing design. And then universally shipped across the entire planet Earth, we get into universal patternings. We live in this right-handed world. 85%, give or take, of human beings are right-handed. And so we get into a patterning because that's only one side of our bodies. And there's two sides to the body. Videos here under In the Image Clothing Company's main site about right-handedness, if you will, are titled these. You can't be ambidextrous in imbalanced clothing. Ambidextrous, that's a word that means able to use both sides of the body evenly, which we essentially would have to have our bodies work as properly as we can, and really just the only way they actually work is just centered, because the musculature connects from both sides of the body into the center line. Because You're Right-Handed is another video's title here under In the Image Clothing Company's main side. There's a lot of things I know about you, and I don't even know you. If you're right-handed, though, I get it, because, you know, we're just using one side of our body more than the other. We live in a right-handed world. Meaning, even if you're left-handed, products that are designed to be used, they're designed to be used with the right hand. If they're supposed to be for one-hand usage, it's almost always just the right hand they're designed for, because that's the very vast majority of human beings, you know, right-handed people. So you're using things with your hands, with your right hand. Clothing patterns, in ways and to a degree, are right-handed. And then we tie things like right-handed knots on our bodies, around our waist to hold our pants on, or around our feet to hold our shoes on. Like I said, In the Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique, it's just the only way the top of the feet are shaped. We talked about the bottom of the feet earlier being the neutral, and that's the sole of the shoe, you know, zero drop, the term in any brand of shoe. It's just the same as being barefooted. The feet only work barefooted. A video here under In the Image Clothing Company's main side. We can wear shoes that are coverings for our feet just as long as they don't alter all the bones, ligaments, tendons, and muscles, gripping arches inward in the feet with our different length toes, which is the video's title under In the Image Clothing Company's main site here, different length toes. We've got different length 5 toes. If you've got 5 toes and they're basically like the universal human design's feet, you know. Dorsiflexion, plantar flexion, internal rotation, external rotation, pronation and supination, gripped arches in the feet. You know, there's only one way these things work. There's a tripod in the foot, and we just roll evenly off the ends of our different length 5 toes, so they share the weight, and then we've got a neutral position up the entire body. That's just how the body works. But we don't work like that if we're in patterning. Wow, I kind of sounded like a bird. You hear like a macaw speaking English. Oh my gosh. And it sounds similar to that sometimes. Anyway, what I'm saying is the top of the feet's half their function. You know, we lift the shoe off the ground with the top of the foot. Every step we take, half of its functioning is lifting up, and then half of its functioning is lifting down when it comes to the foot. You're probably not lifting down, but pushing down, right, off the ground. So, yeah, In the Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique. We don't own it. It's nothing to do with us, really, besides we title it that. So you can find it, because that's the only way you're going to weave a rope across the top of the human foot without altering how it works, okay? So, this is what I'm saying. We get into patterning, and, you know, that's a lot to deal with. There's only one way the human body could ever work, and so it took me 2 years. Is the video's title here under In the Image Clothing Company's main side, but spoken by me, Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, and I'm in this for life to lead In the Image Clothing Company. Yeah, I'll be here, okay, for the rest of my entire lifetime doing this. But it took me 2 years personally to get out of this chronic patterning that I got into from the very same things that we discussed under In the Image Clothing Company. I was doing a lot of the same things we say we should never do here, because that's how we know these things, is out of personal experience. Trial and error, personal experience again, and some prayer and revelation with some more personal experience. Rotated seams. Okay. I love this video so much. It's ridiculous. We've got rotated seams in our armpits. All right. What I mean is you've got these little seams down the inside of the sleeves of tops, okay? And they'll be rotated where they are. You know, instead of just being an even seam, like this green shirt here, it's got an even seam here. But, oh, there you go. This tan shirt didn't. And so we modify it, you know, just a little snip here where the rotation is happening, where the seam meets the sleeve cuff in the case of a top, you know, or where the seam meets the shirt tail in the case of a top. We just modify it by allowing the seam to move in both directions, or else there's a rotation and it twists our whole bodies. You know, rotated seams in short cuffs for pant items that are short length above the knees, you know, or pant cuffs for pant designs that go down and stop right above the ankles. Okay, if there's just rotated seams in our clothing, though, it's rotating our bodies, and that's a huge focus with anything placed onto the body, is don't let it rotate your body, man. So yeah, really though, the Serratus Anterior, it's got this rotated seam right against it, and in two places, you know, seams coming down the sides of our top, or seams coming out the armpits of our top. Either way, either one of these two seams, it's right there against where the Serratus Anterior muscle is. We're resting our arm against our rib cage, and we're pinching that seam, not just between the arm and the rib cage, but the Serratus Anterior is actually between the arm and the rib cage. That's where this muscle spans, okay? And it plays a huge role, because this is the thing, the hand is the shoulder. You know, we lock the hand out from the shoulder at the elbow between the two, and they do the exact same thing. There's only one way the human body could ever work. There's no opinion to it that could ever possibly matter. So don't believe me, because truth is truth. It's not my choice, but this is the truth. You know, that Serratus Anterior muscle, it just gets damaged. We really do have a lot of rotated seams. It's so common in modern 2026. It's ridiculously common, okay? Well, like I'm showing, two of these tops that I have right now, these are just clothing items I bought used, both of these tops. They both had rotated seams. This green one had them on the sides, right? The side seams that go down to the shirt tail, but not in the armpit seams. But then this tan one has both rotated seams down the sides to the shirt tail and down the armpit seams, because this one's a long sleeve. It goes all the way down to the sleeve cuff. And it's ridiculously common to find rotations and seams nowadays. That's what I'm saying is that's why I said robots. It wasn't just a silly thing. I mean it. We have robots that stitch our clothing. Clothing will go down a conveyor belt. It'll get stitched in one direction, and then they'll just flip it around and stitch it in the other on the other side, either the same direction or the other direction. But either way, when I say rotated seams, it's just if the clothing seams aren't just able to hang down evenly with Earth's gravity, then even if both sides are going forward or both sides are going back, and then they're getting pinned down like that in a rotation from the neutral, they're still just not neutral, you know. But then especially if we've got one side rotating one way and the other side rotating the same way, now we rotate the entire body with what's physically placed on us, our clothing. And so living in this right-handed world, it's most common at this time period, at least, today is the 16th of March 2026, for clothing to be rotated to the right. You know, the seams on the right side will be pinned back, and the seams on the left side will be pinned forward, and that just twists our whole body. And so now we've got this Serratus Anterior muscle on the right side in this right-handed world. Don't believe me. Truth is truth. You'll never train your body, though, to do anything. It's impossible. But then why is your body not working? Well, if you've got rotated seams and clothing placed on your body, because clothing isn't something. It's not fashion. Clothing is something placed onto something else. Something is clothing something. That's clothing. You don't have to be into fashion. You don't have to even care about clothing. You don't even have to care to want to try to care about clothing. It's the only thing physically placed on your body. In the Image Clothing Company applies to every body who has one, or everyone who has a body. Every human being on the planet is a universal human design. There's only one way it works. We place something onto it, it can't alter it. That's it. That's our sales pitch, if you will. Put something on your body if you want to do that, but don't alter your body with it, please, for your sake. Clothing's great though, you know, I mean, it keeps us modest, it protects us from the elements, and it just keeps us physically safe. Is Dante? He's still here. I was just making sure Dante's still here. He's such a good dog, I don't really question it. He's just so good. He just follows me around and he's so quiet. I don't even notice him a lot of the time. But yeah, clothing's wonderful, you know, but it just can't alter the body. So that's what I mean. You don't have to care in the slightest bit about clothing at all, but you also don't really have to care about your body, except it's the only thing that you have. There's an episode title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, and that's what it is, you know? The only thing that we have. Everything can leave us in our lives, except for our bodies, because everything that leaves us is leaving us, and we, essentially, in this physical life, are our physical bodies. There's only one, though, that you get here in this life, so you have to be intentional about your clothing. You don't have to care, but you have to be intentional about it. Do you see what I mean? I just want to make it clear, we don't have some kind of sales pitch. It's not like I just want to start a clothing company. We're here to allow the human body to work. That's the only reason we even talk about clothing under In the Image Clothing Company. And we can have clothing that looks nice and whatever, and we can get into clothing, but it's for the sake of the human being. There's only one way it could ever possibly function, and it would, unaltered, within our own individualistic situations, unless we place something onto it that doesn't let it. It's no kind of stretch. It's no kind of thing, bro. It's truth. It's what it is. A mechanical machine is what it is. The human body. So these right-handed rotations, and it can be a left-handed rotation, like I'm saying, it can be going the same direction as in forward on both sides of the body, or backward on both sides of the body. But it's very common for it to be right-hand rotation, because we live in a right-handed world. That's just how things work. That's how we program our machinery. No joke. I mean it. That's what I'm saying. Robots stitch the clothing. Okay? Yeah. So we've got right-handed rotations in our clothing. Very common. And even if it's not right-handed, just seams that aren't allowing the normal motion of the arm. Yeah, you know, the serratus anterior is just playing into the normal motion of the arm. That's why I gave the explanation that I did earlier in this video about how it's just one of the muscles of the many that play into the arm. That's why I did that. That's why I just labeled quite a few other muscles of the arm that play into the shoulder function, and it travels all the way out to the hand. That's why I've discussed how the hand is the shoulder. That's what I'm saying, is it's just one of the muscles that plays into the functionality of the shoulder, but the human body only works activated as a whole. And so you alter one muscle, and you alter the whole group that it's playing into. Okay, the whole group of muscles of the shoulder, in this case. You know, and these rotated seams, they affect things down to our feet, and they affect our hips, because the shirt tail, where the rotation's actually happening down there, the shirt tail, if it is right on the hips or the pelvis of the human being, you know. So there's a lot with rotated seams in all aspects of anything that you have rotating placed onto the body. The body can't be rotated, or else it's damaged. You know, you'll just have muscles contracting more on one side and elongating more on the other side. That's just how it works. There's two sides to the center line of the human being where the musculature connects into. Like I'm saying, I mean, that's the thing, is this serratus anterior muscle. Rotated seams are just one of the things, by the way, in clothing that's affecting this muscle. You've got just a rope tied around your waist with one side over the other, and you're just twisting your entire body. Well, if you tie a right-handed knot, it'll be the same as a right-handed rotated seam twist. If you tie your shoes imbalanced and tie both sides the same direction, you're just twisting your entire body. And if you're doing right-handed knots, then it's the same as a right-handed rotated seam twist. You see what I mean? It all plays into each other. This right-handed world, even if your clothing's centered and you're just using your right hand more than other sides of your body, and there's probably just only one other side to the right, you know, it'd be the left, yeah. The point is, your body will be damaged, because that's the thing, is if you've got oversized clothing and it's just falling to one side more than the other, you know, there's just play in it, or just a top that's not snug around your jaw muscles, let's say that, not just around the neck. But what really is the neck? Well, there's a lot to it. Man. And there is too. There's a lot to this. That's what I'm saying. I'm in this for my entire lifetime. I'm in this. As in, I'm putting my all in this, bro. I'm all in. Yikes. There's a reason I said it like that. I'll talk about it later if I do in this video, but oh my gosh. This is crazy, because it's just as real as it gets, like I say. It's as obvious as it is once you see it. Like I say, Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, what we're really doing here, these things are just like, oh, that's why my body's hurting. If it is, yeah, you're placing something on it. It's got to hold up off Earth's gravity all day, and it's got to try to work around all day. That's what I mean. Oversized clothing, if we're using our right hand, most always, even if we've got clothing that doesn't have any stretch in it, stretch in clothing didn't even exist until tens of years ago from today's date, the 16th of March, 2026. Okay, first of all. Secondly, stretch goes the opposite direction of the only way the muscles of the body could ever work. The only way the body could ever work is if the muscles work to stabilize the body and move it across the planet Earth. You know, there's only one way the body works, and that's how it is muscles only pulling. But yeah, I mean, even if you've got 100% cotton, for example, like what I'm wearing with these two tops, it's just 100% cotton shirts, natural material, okay? There's no opinion to natural. There's always only natural until we can make unnatural things as human beings, but they always decompose back to natural. Okay, artificial, synthetic, unnatural, these are things that we deal with as human beings in modern 2026 and going forth that never could have possibly happened in the past. You know, having to deal with these things because they're inventions of human beings that are just only tens of years old as of today's date, the 16th of March, 2026. But what I'm saying is, with the oversized tops, let's say you've got an oversized top on, it's just not fitting right at the edges of your shoulders. You know, we discuss it like this. Tops are like a cage for the shoulders. They should just lock the shoulders in place, because we've just got musculature connecting to the center line of the body, and an oversized top just pulls on the body. You know, oversized clothing is not a choice if you want your body to work, okay, but that's a video's title under In The Image Clothing Company's main side here. Oversized tops and the collarbone is a video under In The Image Clothing Company's main side here. The importance of a strong jaw is a video under In The Image Clothing Company's main side here. We've got a lot of videos discussing the jaw because of how it plays such a huge role in the entire body. Eating, speaking, stabilization of the entire body, and breathing are things that we can say certainly the jaw does, and whatever else it plays into in the whole body. And it's got musculature that goes through the collar of our tops, like I'm saying. You know, keeping collar centered, the importance of snug collars, and just clothing fitting properly. Clothing has to fit. There's no opinion to it. There's no opinion to it that could matter. So don't believe me, okay? It's not about me. It's about Jesus Christ. He designed the body. It only does what it does. Watch this. Man. If we've got play in the tops, okay, at the edges of our shoulders, and it's just too wide, then we'll just fall off to one side of our bodies like this, meaning the clothing will literally pull us. Literally, it will pull us with Earth's gravity off to one side of our bodies. And so we get into a right-handed patterning. 85% give or take of human beings being in this patterning just because they're using this side of their body. And then the rest of people who are left-handed, you still live in a right-handed world. And so what I'm saying really is dreaded collar seams. You know, they're almost always placed on the upper left side, at this time period at least, of our collars. And that just puts you into a right-handed patterning, okay? A seam in the collar of your top, placed on the upper left side of the collar. Anyway, well, this is in the Image Clothing Company. You know, we discuss these things. Yeah, okay. But what I'm saying is the Serratus anterior, what it does is it pulls the shoulder blade in and back. Strangely, even though it connects in the front of the body, it connects up underneath the scapula or the shoulder blade, and so it pulls it against the rib cage in a position that really does play into what the trapezius muscles are doing and the rhomboids are doing to really pull the shoulder blade in and back. That's what it does. That's really what it does. And because even though it's pulling forward, it's pulling the scapula like against the rib cage. It's just kind of hard to explain because of the location that it connects up underneath the scapula. It kind of does this. It sort of drops the shoulder back behind our bodies. Even though it's pulling the shoulder forward, it's from the inside part of the scapula or the shoulder blade. Anyway, you know, we discussed the shoulders only ever work behind the head. Under In the Image Clothing Company, that's a huge focus we explain because it's the truth. You have to start with your feet flat on the ground. If you've got your feet, and yeah, it just is what it is. That's just so real. If you've got your feet in man-made shoe design, your God-made feet in man-made shoes, and you've got a heel under the foot, you're in a constant state of pointing your toes, plantar flexion, and the neutral, which is the surface of the earth, isn't there anymore. And so it changes the body's bends, traveling all the way up to the tip of the head, to the tips of the fingers. Videos here under In the Image Clothing Company's main side about this bending of the body, the natural curve in the spine, and the natural bend in the knee. Those are two videos under In the Image Clothing Company's main side here. Because meaning the reason I'm referencing those right now is because if we put a heel under our feet's heels in man-made shoe design, we just change the entire body all the way up in its bends, because we change the bend of the ankle, and that's the first bend up the entire body, and we take it out of its neutral. The rest of the body then is taken out of its neutral as well. And so the shoulders will come forward in front of our head, maybe, or right beneath our ears, maybe. The shoulders only ever work behind the head. That's just where they connect to the body mechanically, is back behind the head. And, well, the serratus anterior muscle is playing into this big time. Because, like I'm saying, it pulls the shoulder blade into a position. Oh, there you go. That's actually a very good visual to see this. It connects on the front of the body to these ribs. Okay, it comes back, connects up underneath the shoulder blade or the scapula, and this muscle pulls like this. There you go. That's a good visual. It pulls the shoulders back and in, almost back and forward. I don't even know how to explain that in a way that could really be understood if you don't have a little bit of context on really knowing what the muscle looks like and how the body works. Because, like I'm saying, there's just a lot going on in the motion of the shoulder. There's a lot happening in this shoulder of the human being. But yeah, this muscle pulls the shoulder back behind our heads, even though it connects in the front of our bodies. It really does. That's just how it works. A lot of it's just the curve of the spine. A lot of it's just because the bone of the scapula or the shoulder blade sits behind the rib cage. So as that bone's pulled forward, essentially, it's still straightening the spine. And the rib cage has to open up forward because it connects to the spine and the rear of it. There's a video here under the main site of In the Image Clothing Company titled "The Diaphragms of the Neck." Anyway, the rib cage opens in the front because there's cartilage in the front connecting the ribs to the sternum differently than how the ribs connect to the spine in the rear. There's more motion in the front. And also, yeah, the spine is what's supporting our bodies vertically on Earth's gravity, and it's in the rear. And so as we expand our rib cage, we straighten the spine. As we pull this serratus anterior muscle, it essentially straightens the spine. Yikes. I mean, you have to see that with a lot of context, but I just gave it. It's just that there's a lot happening mechanically in the body just naturally, and it just would work, but not if we have something in the way. Rotated seams right next to our serratus anterior muscle. This is the thing. If we're rotated to the right side, I mean, this is the real point. Yikes. Darn it. This is just so huge because, yeah, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to, accept this as being something that I'm able to do. This is crazy. This is the truth. If we got a rotation, if you're rotating your body, all of a sudden I'm mad about it because it's like, I don't deserve to understand this stuff and deliver this information. This is the same information that apply to my grandkids, great-great-grandkids, and so forth. Because no matter what clothing design looks like going forth, no matter how clothing's made or what it's made out of, it's still got to be placed on the body the same way the body works to allow the body to work. We're still right-handed if we are, and if we're not, then maybe you're left-handed. And either way, there's just one side or the other from the center line of the body. Clothing will always have the same effect on our bodies that it always has. It always is just what it is. God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Truth is truth. It's an eternal, permanent documentation. And I'm just standing out here in the dirt with Dante, my current first of many standard poodles. The serratus anterior, if we've got a rotation in our clothing, well, watch this. The serratus anterior pulls, and it's got to do it evenly on both sides, just because there's one on either side of the body. So it pulls, and now we're in a neutral position with our arms, okay? Because it's pulling on the scapula, which is one of the 3 bones of the shoulder, and the hand is the shoulder, and so it travels out to the fingertips, what the serratus anterior does. Well, it travels down to the tips of the toes and up to the tip of the head because the whole body is all there. But yeah, and that's the point, is it's huge. The effect this has. If we've got a rotated seam, let's say my clothing's all rotated to one side, now my body's rotated like this. So now we've got a serratus anterior muscle that's stretched out on one side, and that's excessively contracted on the other side. And, well, that's why I explained as thoroughly as I did how this muscle works, because it's kind of weird to understand, because it's sort of strange that it sort of, I said sort of twice because it's strange. To me, it sneaks in there, as I worded it earlier, between the bones of the rib cage and then the shoulder blade, and then it pulls in a position where it just does what it does. And yikes, it almost doesn't make sense, because if you don't start with your feet flat on the ground, and if you don't start with your pelvis or your hip structure in a neutral position, then you'll be looking at it all wrong, because your whole body's anatomy will be altered from its only neutral from things like this, your feet being altered or your hips being altered before you can even ever get up to your shoulders to try to address getting them in a proper position. You might not really understand what that muscle's actually doing. It's kind of doing this. Because, like I said, keeping elbows at the natural waist. If your elbows aren't already at your natural waist, then you can't understand the serratus anterior muscle's function, but that's what the serratus anterior muscle does, is play into keeping the elbows at the natural waist. Anyway, just, imagine the body being twisted, and just a difference in activation Look at my hand. I mean, that's the point. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of hard to understand because it's almost like you look at the hand to find out what the serratus anterior muscle is really doing, because the position of this shoulder blade or the scapula is determined by where the hand goes. Really, I mean, it's just very complex. And I didn't expect to even say that in this video or to have this like face. I'm making a face about it because it's like, it is complicated. It really actually is. When we're trying to understand it fully, that's the thing, you know, it'll just do it. Just don't alter the body and it'll just all function proper. Like the dogs or like any animals across the earth. That's what I was saying earlier about the animals. They just work. They don't try to do workouts to try to get their body to do something that's physically impossible for them to. Just like the human beings, the bones are only the shape and length that they are, and so are the muscles. They're just the shape and length that they are. It only does what it does. All right. So this serratus anterior muscle, it's got to be even on both sides. I mean, that's the takeaway. That's the point. And the point really is, if we've got seams right against it, but that aren't sitting even, because that's what I'm saying. You've got side seams of your tops. They just have to be even with Earth's gravity's pull, because Earth's gravity's pull on the side seams of your tops is the same as Earth's gravity's pull on your arms that are right against the side seams of your top. I mean, there's no opinion to it. And so you've got rotated clothing and the seam's not sitting where your arm's hanging. Gravity's pulling on the side seam of your clothing, but it's rotating down at the shirt tail, let's say, with a rotated seam in their tops. You know, in the Image Clothing Company's rotated seam modification. There you go. But just because gravity's pulling on the rotated seam of your top and it's twisting, that doesn't mean your arms can just be like, okay, well, I guess we'll twist too. Your arms can't just twist to follow the seams of your clothing. Your arms just need to be pulled down straight at your sides with Earth's vertical gravity pull. That's what I mean. That's why we discuss gravity so much under In the Image Clothing Company. Go to the gym all you want every day of your life. You know, every other day, whatever. We'll try to work out your body to get it to do something. It's impossible to do, first off. But secondly, don't. I mean, you're just fighting a rotated seam. You know, if you're wearing clothing with rotated seams in this case, and just one of the many things in clothing that could be damaging your body, you're never going to change how the body works. You're never going to train it to do something. It's impossible. It is impossible. It's not my choice, not my opinion. Don't believe me. It's impossible, though. Mathematically impossible. It's impossible. Mechanically impossible. It's impossible. Physically impossible. All of a sudden, it's like I'm leading music. You know, we just like start a whole movement. All right, cool. We'll call it In the Image Clothing Company because we're certainly not just a clothing company. You know, that's the point. Yeah, I mean, that's what we're doing here. There's a lot to this, you know, 4 sides to this. And a lot within each of them. There's a lot that we do here under In the Image Clothing Company. The focus, though, is let's allow our bodies to work so we can do a lot. If we want to be doing a lot, if we need to be doing a lot. You know, whatever we need to do, let's do it. Do everything clothing is our, you know, what we say about our clothing, how it will always be. We need to be able to just do everything, no matter what we're wearing. You know, it can't be restricting our bodies or else it's just physically damaging to us. And so, anyway, the serratus anterior, that's what I'm showing with the rotated seams, is if the rotated seams are not meshing with how our arms hang with Earth's gravity, and they won't be. If they're rotated, the arms don't rotate in their neutral. They rotate from their neutral. That's my point. It's not my point, but that's the point. That's the truth. The truth is, it's extremely common for people to have a difference in activation from their left serratus anterior to their right serratus anterior because of, well, this one thing, rotated clothing. Now look at this position my whole body's in, from my feet up to my pelvis, up to my shoulders, out to my hands. Here we are in a right-handed patterning. from rotated seams, and they're placed right against the serratus anterior. And it's not just about them being directly against the serratus anterior, but it's about my whole arm's position. Now I've got an elongation on the right side of my serratus anterior and an excessive contraction on the left side of my serratus anterior, and that's why I'm saying it's kind of confusing to see exactly what it does, because it pulls like this. Watch this. Strangely enough, the serratus anterior muscle pulls the shoulder. I'm not even going to try to explain it in words, but I'll just kind of show you what it'll do when it pulls like this. And then we're neutral. So I mean, it plays into what the rotator cuff muscles are doing, what the trapezius are doing, but like I'm saying, everything in the whole shoulder functionality is just working together. Anyway. There you go, you know. Clothing's effect on the serratus anterior. But it's not just the rotated seams, it's not just oversized clothing, it's not just any kind of thing we would call a seam and a collar of a top, just anything different or discrepant in the collar of our top when there's a circular nature to the circumference of our neck. You know, what really is neck pain? A video I filmed in November of 2025 in beautiful St. George, Utah. Well, we have to know what the neck is first, but it's just an imbalance of musculature in the neck, you know. And the serratus anterior, we could say, is a muscle of the neck, because you could say the foot is filled with muscles of the neck. Truly, just meaning the whole body's all there. That's what I'm saying. If we alter the feet, you alter the serratus anterior, because the feet are supporting the whole body, and now the arms will just hang differently than neutral. And then you just got a different level of contraction and musculature supporting the arms if they're not evenly hanging, because the feet are altered. You see what I mean? It's Earth's gravity. I mean, that's a big, big point. That's, you know, a lot of what's happening. If we didn't deal with gravity, you'd still be placing something on you that's rotating, or something on you that's in the way, but then it's compounded by gravity's pull on it. You know, there's a lot to it, man. There's a lot to it. So yeah, anyway, clothing sits in the same location for every body. It's literal wording. It's a universal human design. Pants sit entirely above our hips at the natural waist. All right, below those lowest ribs where the elbows sit. Okay, look at this. Neutral, 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 neutral. There's only one way the body could work. There's no opinion to it that could ever possibly matter. So we just have to allow it to. You're never going to train it. You can't. I don't care who claims that. Don't believe me, but find the truth, right? Go to God. That's the point. Who designed the body? How does it work? I couldn't take credit for any information under In the Image Clothing Company anyway, so don't believe me about it. Truth is truth, though. Always. Never changes. Anything, ever, in any aspect of life that's truth, it's truth, and that's it. Or it's not true. That's it. Yeah. And so yeah, pants have to be at a natural waist. We keep our pant waistline very slightly higher in the front than the rear. Ideally, it's just exactly horizontal, with Earth's vertical gravity's pull meshing with its horizontal surface. Just like the bottom of our feet, the neutral to the pelvis is the surface of the Earth, okay? It travels up from the bottom of the feet. Then we've got the neutral to the pelvis, posterior rotation or anterior rotation. But we just don't want our pelvis rotating in the direction it already bends by our pants falling lower in the front. We just can't stand up on Earth's gravity, you know? Earth's gravity, you know? What are you doing in the gym when you're lifting weights? You're posing Earth's gravity, you know? I mean, wow, that was kind of creepy sounding. Good. Yeah, I mean, it's gravity, dude. That's such a huge point. It's just gravity. Yeah, what are you doing? You're trying to train your body. You're dealing with Earth's gravity. So you don't want to care about clothing, but clothing's being affected by Earth's gravity, you know, and it's physically placed on you. And so that's what I mean is just go wear a heavy outfit and see if you feel good, like you did some workout. You won't. You probably won't do it, but you also won't feel good if you do. Anyway, in the Image Clothing Company, that's what I'm saying. You can't train the body, but people want to. And a lot of times they don't realize all they're doing is dealing with Earth's gravity. It's nothing about the weights in the gym. It's about Earth's gravity's pull on whatever you put into your hand. Yikes. Truth is truth, you know. Anyway, holy cow! What's going on, Dante? I don't think he's even been able to be seen in the video yet so far. He's just curled up sleeping. He's a good dog. Like a ridiculously good dog. I'm not just saying that because he's my dog. He's just a good dog. Anyway. Tops. We have seams on top of our shoulders. They need to sit evenly behind the peak of our shoulders. The peak of the shoulder is the other end of this collarbone or clavicle, which is one of the 3 bones of the shoulder. You know, from the center line of the body here at the top of the sternum in the front, the collarbone or clavicle comes up and out, and it meets the upper arm bone called the humerus and the scapula called the shoulder blade, which we've discussed a lot in this video because the title was Clothing's Effect on the Serratus Anterior, and it connects to the scapula, okay, or shoulder blade. Here comes the wind. Anyway, our shoulders only ever work behind our head, and they just follow the shoulder seams because of Earth's gravity. Holy cow. I mean it. All right, so yeah, evenly. The shoulder seams sit evenly right behind the peak of the shoulders. Okay, and then the edge seams of our tops, I discussed it a little bit earlier, sort of, but let me be clear here on it, because right at the edges of our shoulders, as close as we can get, we've got 3 bones meeting, like I just explained. The joints of bones need to be at the joints of the material of our clothing, and we need edge seams. It's possible, if you will, to have clothing design without edge seams on our shoulders. We need them to mesh those 2 things together, the bones of the body and the seams of the clothing. There you go. Remove your tags. Okay, removing all tags from clothing is one of the 2 prerequisites, in addition to in the Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique, just to not alter the body. We talk about these things, you know, apart from just where clothing sits baseline, and we get into clothing in depth with modifications and with just explanation and, you know, buttons and zippers and pockets and seams and ropes of any kind, shoelaces, drawstrings, anything on the body at all. We talk about it in depth. There's a lot of little things, you know, that'll alter your body. The little things, yeah, are often the biggest. I'm pretty sure that's an episode title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. The little things? It's something like that. Anyway, tags, yeah, they didn't exist even just tens of years ago from today's date, the 16th of March, 2026. They just cause a physical gap, changing the body's only working position, and or just don't allow the muscles to activate, and the body only works altogether activated, so damage happens, okay? It's just like having a leaf from a tree stuck between your clothing and your body. Tags at this time period, 16th of March, 2026. You know, I mean, it's just weird, but we just become kind of accustomed to it being the case, except it's damaging our bodies no matter what. You know, just having something physically placed in the way like that, that's just different than the rest of the whole clothing item placed on us. And that's what I mean by universal clothing designs. You know, the tags are placed in almost the exact same location across the whole planet Earth, you know, which is where our clothing designs are shipped to, where they are, you know, yeah. So, anyway. Truth is truth, man. It's nothing to do with me, so don't believe a thing and see what's left. Something's got to be, right? You, at least, if you're still able to try to believe in something. Anyway. Darn it. So yeah, there you go. I mean, the point is just even serratus anterior muscles, you know, because yeah, you'll have just differences, like I was showing in the level of activation on one side versus the other of the muscle. If you don't have evenness to your body, Anyway, In the Image Clothing Company music, another one of our fourths where we do a lot of rhythm and poetry, lyricism, spoken word, singing and guitar playing geared around the gospel of Jesus Christ. We've got series over there, and we do series where we do, you know, we've got quite a few different series under In the Image Clothing Company, each of the 4 sides that we do, where we do, yeah, what I'm saying is, you know, that's the other fourth I haven't mentioned in this video yet. We do, you know, we show the sizing and the setup of guitar to not alter the hands and the wrist and then traveling through the whole body. The neutral wrist, straight out from the outside of the forearm, down and out the pinky finger. You know, we just discuss the rounding to the hands that correlates with the gripped arches in our feet, and one can't really be there if the other is altered. If we alter the feet arches, we will alter the arches in our hands. And also, yeah, if we alter the arches in our hands, we will alter the arches in our feet. We've just got different length fingers and different length toes, different length thumbs from our fingers, and they just mesh at the pads. No opinion that could matter on it. There's only one way the human body could ever work. As these things, you know, the different length fingers, the different length thumbs, and just how the body works. It only works how it does. That's it. That's it. Anyway, you know, come to Utah if you want. We live up Utah, the state of Utah, the United States of America here. What I'm saying is you can bring your poodles, purebred of any size or mixed poodles of any size. You probably have no idea what I'm saying. If you don't, I was just realizing, yeah, if you don't already know about this at all, you're like, what's he saying this for? That made me laugh. That was funny. Because, yeah, you know, with poodle parade events under In the Image Clothing Company Poodles, we'll get people into nature and dogs into nature. Come for the events and the reason we're doing them, not for In the Image Clothing Company's team. But, yeah, things like subcategories of poodle parade events, clean the creek or rid the rubbish, specific poodle parade events, to pick up trash for the environment, you know, doing things like this. Dante and I, my personal current standard poodle, and me, Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, we'll move down to St. George, Utah, just about 3.5 hours drive south from Utah County here, where I'm currently standing, and Dante is currently sleeping at my feet here. And it's a true desert. Beautiful red rock, sandstone, you know, like hot, man, in the summer. I love the heat, though. It's going to be great. Warm, relatively, at least, in the winters. This is where we'll be based, and we'll have our building down there where we ship our clothing products out of. Our team will be there, our poodles will be there, and we'll just do what we do under the gift of video, you know, breeding purebred standard poodles under In the Image Clothing Company Poodles to advocate for the health of purebred dogs, you know. Yeah, keeping less dogs in shelters and more dogs at homes. It starts at, you know, but it starts before birth with proper breeding. And we just discuss a lot with holding leashes naturally so we don't alter our bodies as the owners. There's a video here under In the Image Clothing Company's main site titled Holding Things Naturally, you know, and there's just a neutral to the body and there's just a rounding to the hands as one of the things, you know. So anyway, yeah, we discuss the height of dogs versus the height of owners and just, you know, keeping dogs healthy over on In the Image Clothing Company Poodles. It's a big part of what we do for sure. Big parts. Yeah, very, very huge, you know. We'll always be a huge name in poodles, In the Image Clothing Company Poodles, because we're doing all that we can to do things properly. Our dog's just living in this modern man-made world placed onto God's natural earth as we are as human beings. They just don't understand it the way that we do. There's hidden dangers for the dogs, you know, chemicals and things that can kill the dog, cars, for example, you know, things like this the dogs have to deal with. And it's just already unnatural to domesticate an animal anyway, which it's not always a bad thing, but we just have to have the context we have to keep these animals healthy. That's why we title it Letting Dogs Stay Natural under In the Image Clothing Company Poodles. So anyway, we're doing a lot here. You don't have to care, but it applies to you, so that's cool. No matter who you are, you know, everybody. I say it like this: man, woman, tall, short, skinny, fat, any age, any part of the earth, any time period to ever be, you're just a human being. It's a universal human design. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, man. The headquarters are here in the state of Utah. The nature is just so beautifully diverse, you know. I mean, it's crazy. The kind of landscape you get here in Utah. I mean, you've got all sorts of different things too, depending on where you go throughout the state. I'm Utah native, personally, as the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, me, Evan Strong. I love it here. You know, there's an episode of In The Image Clothing Company podcast titled Utah. I gave some context about the beautiful state of Utah here, but it is what it is, man. Clothing, and it always will be, it always has been. It's not only just these unnatural materials we have nowadays. It's not just because robots stitch our clothing nowadays. It's not just because we have tags in clothing nowadays and stretch in clothing nowadays. I mean, all of this would have applied to every human before me, and it will apply to every human after me. Anything you put onto the body in any way, it's something that wasn't there before. So yeah, it's that simple. But we talk about everything else too, you know, those things I list off: eating, sleeping, standing, walking, sitting, breathing, hydration, everything we do as a human being, because the thing is, clothing is just the only thing physically placed on us. We're doing everything through our lives that we are. Okay, we're doing everything in our lives though through our clothing. So thank you, goodbye.